of how to build your swing in 30 days. So last video, what we talked about was kind of that your shoulders have a 45-degree turn, and then that's kind of the max that we have, and then it kind of grabs the hips, and that's how the hips turn. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about the hips, of exactly what they should look like when they're turning, and some of the things, some of the mistakes that we come across when we are trying to turn our hips. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit that button in the bottom right hand corner, and we'll go ahead and get started on exactly what we want our hips to do and some of the mistakes that we can make. So in the previous video we talked about what the knees kind of do, how they help facilitate how the hips should turn. Okay, one of the mistakes that I commonly see is when people think about turning their hips, they tend to let that right leg straighten and then their body kind of stands up. So yeah, they're turning their hips, but they're losing their posture. They got a really big hip turn, good shoulder turn, except they're standing up out of their posture, their shoulders have gone flat, and now it's becoming very hard for them to find the bottom of the ball each time, because now their head is going up and down, and most likely their head is going left and right. So when you are turning your hips, make sure that that back leg doesn't straighten up on you, and make sure that you're trying to stay down in your posture, okay? Your belt line should always look like the right hip is higher and the left hip is lower. If it looks like the belt is going flat, we've stood up, we've lost our posture, and now it's going to be much more of a struggle for you to hit good golf shots. The next mistake when I see people turning their hips is that they think they're turning their hips, but they tend to kind of sway their hips. Okay, so it kind of sways back to the right. All right, and that's when we talked about internal hip rotation. You're not really having it, you're just swaying your hips. Okay, we don't want you to ever sway your hips. Okay, what it's going to feel like is that internal hip rotation is almost going to feel like if you're a right-handed golfer, your right butt cheek as you turn starts to go towards the target. Okay, rather than just flat turning. It's hard for us to kind of have that feeling. That works best for most people, is it going to feel like their right hip actually turns towards the target. Another thing that you're going to see with a good hip turn is if you put a line basically straight off the left hip here and people turn, you're going to see that they turn and that left hip actually comes off the line a little bit. It doesn't go like that. We don't go into the slide. We just come off that line a little bit and make sure those hips are turning right. Your right leg should always look like it basically stays in the same spot. So it should never look like the knee goes out or the knee goes in. Right leg should look like, if I've got two lines on each side of my leg, I stay in that turn the whole time with my right leg. Well, that left hip line starts to come off of it a little bit. All right, that's what a really good hip turn looks like. Don't get into the sway idea, and don't just overdo the turn by feeling like you're doing that. And now, yeah, we've had a really good turn, but now our weight is crazy on our front side, and we're probably going into a reverse tilt. We all got all sorts of issues going on if you kind of overdo it. Okay, if you really concentrate on your hip turn, one thing that can really help you is just, it's going to feel like you kind of, your head stays centered, your body stays centered, your belt buckle kind of stays pretty centered. It doesn't really move off one way or another. So belt buckle can kind of help you pay attention to that. So the next time you're out there working on just your hip turn, all right, keep some of those cues in mind, and it'll help you with your hip turn. It'll help you play better golf.